Hi everybody, so welcome to week 3. My video today is hopefully going to be a little bit shorter. The main things that I want to walk through with you are the prompts for the next few assignments, primarily the annotated bibliography, and then the next one I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the digital oral presentation, because there is a presentation. It's fully online, so it's not going to be synchronous together, but we'll get to that the second half of this video. I wanted to start off by talking about the annotated bibliography. That's the assignment that's due during week 3. The prompt has been on Canvas since week 2, so hopefully you get a chance to look at it, but if not, we're going to look at it together right now. This assignment does not require a rough draft. It's just going to be one that you complete and submit on Canvas. It's due July 14th by midnight. The total word count for this one is 800 to 1,000, but the reason for that is it's split up into different annotations, and each annotation you'll want to be roughly around 150 words. So it can vary, but we'll talk more about that in a second, and it's worth a total of 100 points for this assignment. So for just the overview, if you've written a bibliography before, essentially it's really similar to what we did for the rhetorical précis, where you talk about what is the source about, how useful is it going to be for you, and what the purpose of the source is. So annotations essentially summarize sources, but they also reflect on how is it going to fit into your own research and help answer your research question that you're coming up with for the proposal. So there are 3 steps. The first step is to summarize the source. What's the main argument? What topics does it cover? Step 2 is to assess what's the purpose. Is it reliable? Do you think it's biased after reading it? What's the source's goal? The main thing about this step is the purpose. So you'll definitely want to talk about what the purpose of the source is. And then step 3 is reflect. How does it fit into your own research or help you answer your research question in some way? Is it helpful? Has it changed the direction of your research at all? So you're definitely welcome to use first person when talking about, especially in the reflection portion of each annotation, how is it working for you? Okay. So essentially for your bibliography, you're going to locate 6 sources. So 6 sources for this assignment. The précis source can't be reused for this because you've already written an annotation for that assignment separately, but you need 6 sources for this one. 5 of them have to be from a research database. The remaining 1 can be from anywhere online, so long as you still think it's reliable and credible. Think about the CRAP test that I posted for week 2. We didn't talk a whole lot about that, but that is essentially a list of questions you can go through to make sure that your sources are still reliable and credible, even if you're not using a research database to find them. So again, you can't use the précis source, have to find 6 sources online elsewhere, most of them from a research database. Okay. Whatever topic you've chosen, it'll be supported by the research you do for this project. So a lot of this research is really important. The sources you're finding for the annotated bib are going to be the ones most likely that you use in your argumentative synthesis essay that we're building up to. So this is your research portion. Okay, so please let me know if you have questions about research still. You're essentially looking for sources about whatever topic you've chosen. And the way that this is formatted, we'll look at a sample in a second, but it's APA formatted, double-spaced, and it's going to follow the template on the next page. So please go through this prompt more on your own as well, just to look through it in more detail. But if we scroll down to page 2, you can see the template and sample, and you'll see at the top here is a hanging indented APA formatted reference entry for the source, and then below that is the annotation. So this is the annotated source. So your annotated bibliography is essentially going to be this sample template duplicated 6 times. So you're looking for 6 sources. Okay. Read through the sample on your own as well. You'll see my comments on the right hand side letting you know more about the formatting, but you'll notice it's split into 3 paragraphs to coordinate with steps 1 through 3. Okay. It's all left aligned, 1-inch margin, double spaced, but again, it's a really good example of what sort of information should you be writing about in your annotated bib. Again, what is the source about? What is the purpose? And then how does it fit into your own research? And you're totally welcome to use first person. Okay, so anyway, that's the annotated bibliography. Please look through the prompt on your own and email me if you have any questions. Take a look at the sample. This one's due July 14th. And the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is going to be the presentation. That comes next. So that's not until week 4, but I do want to get a head start by talking to you more about it this week. So that's what I'm going to spend time on the latter half of this video. Okay, so here's the prompt for the digital oral presentation of research. Like I said, this one's not going to be due until week 4, but to give you as much time as possible to work on it and to think about the prompt, I wanted to talk about it during week 3 just because it is coming up. But let's look at it together, and you can find this prompt under the week 3 module on Canvas. So the digital oral presentation, is to be posted by the 19th, and then you're giving feedback to a few people by the 21st, but I'll talk to you more about that at the very end. It's 3 to 5 minutes long in terms of the full presentation, and you have a few components. There's a visual component and then an audio component. We'll talk about that when we get to page 2, and it's worth 50 points. So we're looking at the overview. To accompany your argumentative research, you're going to present whatever you propose for your research proposal to the class in a digital format. And again, presentations are not occurring live, so it's nothing you have to zoom in for. It's going to be a recording. So kind of similar to this format that I'm talking to you in right now, where I'm in the little bottom of the screen and you can see my screen in the background. It's essentially going to take this same format. The presentation is going to consist of, again, information from your research proposal and your annotated bib, and anything else you think is prevalent to your research so far, anything else you want to let us know about what you're finding out or what you're interested in. And one way that I recommend organizing it is like the proposal assignment. So if you remember that template from the proposal, right, you start with the situation and your background, your research question, your audience, and you go on from there. You can organize this presentation the same way. So this list of bulleted questions here is essentially what I'm asking you to answer during the presentation. You're giving a short summary of the topic, why you're researching it. You're explaining what interested you about it. What problem are you trying to solve, per se? You know, why is it important? Why is it a real world issue? You're explaining what you're arguing for or against if you're at that point. So if you're not at that point yet where you're quite sure, you know, what is your argument going to be in full, that's okay. You can talk to us about what these sides are, even if you're not entirely sure, you haven't finished your research yet in terms of what you want to argue. Then you're going to tell us what your research has taught you so far. What sources have you found? So at this point, when you post the presentation, you will have already done the annotated bibliography. You have some sources, right, that have taught you some things about this topic. What has it taught you? Okay, what sort of sources have you found? And then who's your target audience? Why would this information benefit them? And then finally, there's a great portion at the end. And when I teach this class in person, right, it works a lot differently. But online, there's a great portion at the end where you can ask a Q&A with the audience. So if you have any questions about your research that you want help with, how can you narrow your topic? What else should you be researching in a database? What are some other sides to this that maybe you haven't considered? You can ask the audience, you know, can you give me feedback on this? Do you have any suggestions for keywords I could research? Things like that. So there's this sort of digital Q&A at the end where you can have a slide where you're asking questions of your audience if you want some help. It's not required, but I do think it's really, really important to have, especially if you do have questions, and it can be really, really helpful if you do. So in short, what you're doing is you're sharing with the class what you're researching, okay, right? What's the problem? What solutions exist? Do you know what you're arguing for so far? It's a lot of the same content from the research proposal in the presentation. Essentially, your chance to share with the class why is this important, and then get feedback from not only me, but a few other people in the class as well. So that's the presentation, and page 2 of this prompt has a lot more detail about how to create the digital presentation because there are those two main components, right? Visual and audio. So creating a visual, what most people choose to do is they normally make a PowerPoint slide and they have that on the background. And I've had people use Google Slides, PowerPoint, Prezi, Canva. There are other programs you can use as well. And on the slides is essentially where you're answering those questions from above. And then make sure to have in-text citations if you're using source information, a reference slide where you have all of your sources listed there that you talk about during the presentation, and so on. There's no set number of slides you need, so you can have as many or as few as you want, so long as you're meeting the time requirements of 3 to 5 minutes and you answer all those questions from page 1. Okay, just make sure it's still well-rounded, but there's no set number of slides you need as long as you're in that time frame. And then what you're going to do is after you have that visual component, right, helping us see what's going on in the background, you're adding audio to it. So are a few ways you can do this. First is by screen recording, which is what I'm doing here. You can see the little video in the bottom corner. My screen is on, your screen is what you're viewing. The software that I use is called ScreenPal, so I highly recommend it. It's really easy to use and it's totally free. So if possible, that would be a great option if you're interested in trying that. Okay, we're back. I had to pause really quick because the cat jumped in here. That's another great reason to do a video recording of yourself so we can see you and your animals. As long as you're still doing the assignment, I'd welcome it. Anyway, the other option that I wanted to give you was if you don't want to add a little video of yourself in the corner, you can add audio clips of yourself instead. And I have linked a few videos here for how you can add voice clips to Microsoft PowerPoint, but also Google Slides. So there are a few different options for that. Okay, so if you'd rather just do audio clips, that totally works. So again, after posting your presentation, you're going to leave feedback on 2 other students' presentations. There will be more details about that to come in week 4, but if you have any questions about how the digital oral presentation works, please send me an email. I just want you to get an idea of what's coming up that's due next week, okay? So thanks for watching. Please email me if you can think of any questions.